Hello, everyone. Not gonna say which episode is this because I guess it's episode one. I don't know, but what I'll be doing today, I'll be building a demo for my EnvoyCon talk. That's gonna be on Monday, I think 4 p.m. in Chicago at KubeCon. So I figured, well, first of all, it's a 25-minute talk, right? So I have the slides and everything ready, but I was thinking maybe I should build a demo, like an actual demo. And I'm like, yeah, maybe not. It's only 25 minutes anyway. But then I decided, well, let's do a live stream and let me try and build a demo. Maybe someone can learn something from it, and it's also gonna prevent me from procrastinating. So yeah, let's do that. Let me share the screen, and if you're here, say hi. So I know I'm not talking with myself only. Let me I'll share my whole screen, so it might look very small. I guess it's not that bad, right? All right. So yeah, what's my talk about? So I'll be talking about. The title of my talk is a practical guide to understanding and configuring Envoy filters. So let me actually find a link to the actual talk and the whole description. So I'm not making stuff up. Where is it? It's down here. So yeah, practical guide to understanding. Let me zoom in here. Yeah, so one of the powers of Envoy comes from the extensibility, right? So Envoy has this concept, this architecture with filters, which makes it very extensible. However, it is complex. At least when I was trying to do all these things, there's a lot of trial and error. It can get time consuming, especially if you're coming from like a service mesh side, right? Service mesh side. Maybe you're not thinking that much about like what's underneath about Envoy and all the like the configuration and everything, because Istio abstracts a lot of that from you and like high level resources that it offers. However, I mean, there is a way that you could go and configure your own filters, create your own filters and all that. And the way that's done is typically through the resource called Envoy Filter. And that resource is almost like a scalpel, right? So you could cut yourself very quickly. It is difficult sometimes, like especially if not knowing the underlying configuration, how to actually use this, right? So the first thing that I want to like get through to people in this talk is just to understand what like how Envoy is built, how the configuration is built, the different building blocks. And then I want to talk about some like practical tips or some of the things that I went through when I was learning about this, when I was trying to translate the filters configuration into Istio's Envoy filter, right? And just give people some more I guess, tools that they can use. But anyway, yeah, so that's going to be my talk. I'm going to talk about like just the basic building blocks of Envoy, and these might change. They're still, was it today? Today is Wednesday, right? So Tuesday, there's like 4 or 5 days left. So of course, there's plenty of time for me to go and change the diagrams, change the slides. But the idea is to present the building blocks, talk about the connection manager, talk about different ways on how to extend Envoy, right? So you can have a custom Envoy builds with your filter. That's all C++. There's an external processing filter, which is really nice. So you could actually call out to an external service. And then that external service will go and process the request, right? There's a Lua script filter, so you write your own Lua script. There's the WASM filter where you can write your own WASM module, WASM plugin, and then have Envoy invoke or call out to that WASM plugin as part of a request flow. And then I'm going to switch to Istio. talking about the existing series that are there. Like Wasm plugin is a good one because Wasm plugin is a higher level CRD resource in Istio that allows you to configure Wasm plugin, HTTP Wasm plugin filter in Envoy, right? So that a dedicated resource just for that. But there are things like in virtual service or destination rule, like outlier detection or circuit breakers. There's no dedicated resource for it in Istio, so there's no dedicated resource for outlier detection, right? However, those can be configured through destination rule, right? And then for anything else, there's Envoy filter resource. So you can configure the HTTP filters, which is the thing that I'm going to be talking about. But there's also the other use case is to go and patch the configuration that gets generated by Istio. So you're not just configuring new filters, right? You can also go and remove, modify, merge, whatever you want to do, update the existing configuration that Istio generates. And then I'll talk about the anatomy of an Envoy filter resource. So you have to pick which proxies you want to apply the Envoy filter to, where in the configuration you want to apply it. So this is those different building blocks that I will talk about on the one of the first slides that I'll have, right? So listeners, routes, clusters, and endpoints. Those are the 4 high-level building blocks of Envoy configuration. So then in the Envoy filter, you have to decide, right, where am I applying? You have to tell Istio where you want Istio to apply the patch. So we're saying we're going to apply it to the listener filter because this is an example for configuring a listener filter. And then you can be even more specific, right, and say, well, I want to apply it for this for listener on this specific port and with this names explicitly, right? And then the context where you can pick the direction where you want to apply this. So in this case, we're going to do it on the inbound. So sidecar inbound, there's sidecar outbound as well. There's the gateway context as well, which applies only to the gateways. And I think the last one is any, right? So it's going to apply to all of them. And then I'm going to switch into talking about configuring the HTTP filters, the three things that you have to know. So are you applying the HTTP filter to the inbound, outbound, gateway, or for all contexts? Order. So is there any specific order the filter has to be processed in? Because if I go to this slide, right, specifically talking about HTTP filters, there's a specific order in which these filters are processed. Hey, Marino's here. Marino, if you want to jump on and speak, let me know. I'll send you the link. Actually, if anyone else is listening and wants to join me and chat, I'll actually post the link. I don't care. Let's see what happens if I post the link. But you'll have to have the camera on and you have to speak. So where was I? Yeah, so order, if there's any specific order you want your filter that you're configuring to be processed in. I guess Marino is working on a demo as well. I know. Yeah. Yeah. You're working on a demo by listening and watching me working on a demo. So that's good. So the order. So typically in the HTTP connection manager network filter, there's a list of HTTP filters. And the order matters because, just to give you an example, the last filter in the HTTP filters list always has to be a terminal filter. That's the router filter. So that's the actual filter that's going to direct your request to an upstream cluster and then eventually to an endpoint. So that's why order matters, right? If you're going to insert your filter at the end, like after the terminal filter, it's not going to get involved, right? So typically, if you don't care about the order, right, you can either do insert it as the first filter, or at least insert it before the terminal filter. So those two things, once you have those two things, that's the first part. And then the second part is the actual filter information, right? So you have to, there are three things that you have to get with the filter, right? And these are the things that are from all the like comments that I've seen from people who are trying to like questions on Slack, Stack Overflow, etc., like things that I get in like in my DMs and everything. It's there's a lot of stuff in the configuration, and configuration is actually pretty good, but there's so many things that sometimes it's just hard to read. But anyway, so if you go to Envoy Proxy, if you go to the documentation site under configuration reference HTTP filters, there's a list of different HTTP filters that you can go and configure. I'll just pick this one because I think I'm talking about this, the local rate limit in the slides as well, right? But basically from here, the three things that you need to know are the name, type URL, and the actual configuration. So the stuff that you want to configure. So the type URL is this, right? It says it here. And then if you want to get the name, you go to the API reference and then scroll at the top. And this is going to tell you that this extension has the qualified name of this, and this is what you put in the name. 720 resolution. Everything is too small, too blurry. I thought I have the high res. Josh, I thought oh, it's 720. Why did I pick 720? Crap. Will it look better if I like make the fonts bigger? Does this look better, Josh? Let me know. But anyway, yeah, so the name is one of, so the name, the type URL, and then the actual, like what is the actual filter configuration, right? How do you want to configure that, that filter? And when I say that the documentation, everything is there, but it might be complex to like navigate. Like here's one example, right? If let's say I'm looking at the local rate limit filter, and I'm like, oh, let me look at what the, I'm trying to find a good example here. All right, let's response headers to add. Okay, so this is a repeated field, right? It specifies a list of headers. Okay, what are the, how does this look like? So you click on this, and then you're taken to a completely different, like, different page in the documentation, right? And it's like, oh, where was I? And then you scroll here, and it's just, there's so many things. So typically, whenever I'm working with like trying to configure something in Envoy, you're going to end up with at least like 7, 8, 9, or 10 different tabs open at least, trying to figure out like, oh, okay, so how do I do this? How do I do the local rate limit descriptor? Okay, so open it a new page, right? Okay, so there's entries, there's token bucket. And I was like, okay, but what is the parent field? Okay, let me go back again, right? Oh, it's descriptors. And then, oh, where's descriptors? Let me scroll up, right? Is descriptors descriptors is the top level one, right? So it's like a lot of navigating back and forth. I think that one of the things that could be done better here is in the documentation, if I don't know, if you hover over it, at least shows you something, or maybe it opens on the side, just so you don't have to like navigate to a completely different page. But anyway, you have the name, you have the type URL, and in some cases, you even get an example, right? So this is the actual configuration. Actually, this down here is the actual configuration for the filter. This is just HTTP filters field where that filter is gonna be in right in that field in the array. So you can get this, right? This example is fairly, I say, straightforward, maybe, right? But there are other. I try to find a more complex one. I don't know, IP tagging, whatever. And some of these things are hard to like set up as well. Okay, so IP tagging sets the header X on Y IP tags with the strings for trusted adders from X4 with 4. If there are no tags, the header is not set, and you get the same information, right? Type URL here, API at reference, open it in a different page. You get the name, okay, IP tagging, and then down here, basically we have to set the request type. Okay, so what is the type of request? Now, again, I typically open this in another page, even though it might be the actual, like it might be defined on this page. It just makes it easier for me to like read, I guess. So it's an enum. So both is default, meaning I don't have to set anything, or I can set internal or external if I want to tag internal or external requests. And then this is a required one. Okay, so this is a required field. So IP tags, the set of IP tags for the filter. And I guess this is the one here. Yeah, so there's the IP tag name. So I have to specify some name and then a list of IP address subnets that will be tagged with the IP tag name. Okay, so if I understand this correctly, this filter is just gonna add a header, a specific, sets the header with the tags that you specify in the filter, right? And the IP tags. So if I say Peter's tag and then provide a list of IPs, and if a request comes in and it's in this IP list, the header X Envoy IP tags will be set with this tag name. Right? So that's how I would envision and how I would read these things. But then if you look back on the main page here, there's no example here, right? Like having an example, a snippet or something here would be extremely useful. And that's the truth for a lot of these pages here in the configuration, right? So it would be very useful if there's a snippet, an example that I can just copy paste and then change to the values that I want. Statistics is another thing that's useful. These are the specific stat names that this filter will output, right? And it tells you like the format in which these stats will be reported, and then the actual description and the type, right? So if you're going to build any dashboards or anything later on, you'll have to need this. And then there are some runtime settings as well, right? You can enable the filter only for a specific percentage of the request if you want to. Yeah, but most of these filters, the documentation follows the same or similar pattern, right? Some of them might have an example language. What is this one? Language detection. Oh, okay, so only in contrib images. Yeah, so that's another thing. If you're trying to configure some of these, not all of these are included in, assuming you're using Istio, they're not going to be included in the proxy that Istio uses, right? So just double check, or they might not be even included in the dev builds or in the actual builds. They're in the contrib images, right? Click here, it's going to tell you, right, which image do you want to pull if you want to try it out, right? And also, some filters are experimental. Some filters don't work on Windows, so just be careful when doing that. But anyway, I steered away from the topics. If I go back, yeah, so the first two, direction and order, from that, we know that it's going to be sidecar inbound only. That's where we're going to apply the local rate limit. We also know where in the filter chain, the HTTP filter chain, are we going to push or put this local rate limit filter. So we're going to do the match on the inbound, and we're going to match on the HTTP connection manager network filter first. And then we're also being more specific and more precise and saying, well, within that, match to the HTTP router filter, which is the last one in the filter chain inside HCM. So think of this as like a pointer, right? So this is just pointing to a specific place in the configuration. And then based on that, we also know that the operation, right, how the patch is going to be included, I guess, or what is the operation for it? It's going to be insert before, which is just saying whatever I provide you down after this, insert it before your match, right? So we match the router, we want to insert it before that one. Right? And there's like insert before, insert after. I think insert start even if you want to do it on the top, at the top, the first item. And that works for the fields that have arrays. There's other values, other operations as well, such as add, remove, I think merge, replace even, or maybe replace and remove is the same, but basically different different operations that you can do on the configuration, right? But for the filters, it's typically that's how you're going to do it. Yeah, and this is what I had. I had like the talk is only 25 minutes, right? So there's not a lot of time. I was thinking I don't need a demo, but this is basically showing what I went through. You know, where do you find that second portion of the filter configuration? And then this is the second portion then, right? So this is in the value field of the Envoy filter resource. We're gonna specify the name of the filter. We're gonna use the type URL, right, to say which type it is. And then in the value field, that's where the actual filter configuration is gonna come in. So if I go here, and so this is the line we're going to start with, right? I mean, if we take this as an example, right? We've provided the name, we provided the config, and then in the value field, it's going to go like this, right? This will be the start. All right, so yeah, so this is what I wanted to do for a demo. I'm thinking maybe figure out what the demo would be. Let me just see if. All right. Yeah. So. Oh, and then the last, like the set of tips. I almost feel like this is the whole value of this talk. Different tips, tricks, I guess. Talking about. I mentioned the extensive documentation, but there's a lot of clicking around there. And then one thing that I sometimes do is instead of, and I would suggest others as well, if you're like trying to figure out Envoy filter resource in an STO cluster, right? I mean, just isolate it to Envoy first, right? Create a sample, simple Envoy configuration first, configure that filter there. Try it, make sure that it works. At least you don't even need a cluster for that, right? You just need an Envoy Docker image, right? You need to run the Docker image. Make sure that it works, and then go and at that point, if you got it to work with Envoy, it's just a matter of copy pasting the configuration into the right spot. This reminds me, there's another thing here is indentation issues. And I'll clean it up. A lot of times YAML, if you work with YAML, it's very easy to mess things up. And a tip would be maybe use JSON instead of YAML. It makes it easier to read. The other one that was extremely helpful to me, also just go to GitHub. Take either the name of the filter or the type URL, search for it. In a lot of cases, you might find a sample configuration that someone else did, and you can just use that as your starting point. The other thing here is like other people's configuration, but also I don't know if did I mention this. I don't. Is unit tests in Envoy proxy repo, right? I went to those as well a couple of times, right? Where I was like, how do you configure this? There's nothing like GitHub search didn't work. Let me go and try to find some other places where you could do this. Let me see if I can find any. If you go to Envoy, I'll make it bigger. There we go. And if anyone watching has done any Envoy filter development or configuration and has any of their tips, let me know. Say hi. Let me see. Is it examples? I think examples are, as of course. Oh yeah, so there's also the example site and this is in documentation as well. There's a couple of examples that you can check. Let me just find. Well, let's search for. Let's try. Well, let's see if there's IP tagging. Let's use this one for an example. Note that this is not like I haven't scripted this, so it's going to be a lot of not interesting things maybe, but okay, so source extensions filters, that's where the filters are implemented. So I'm going to make the fonts a little bit smaller. So HTTP, and then we said IP tagging, right? Let's see if there are any. Oh, there's no tests here. I thought the tests were supposed to be here. No, I could swear I found them. Let's do this. Let's search for this guy. Config, RBAC filter, config. There has to be some test. Oh, mocks. There you go. So there's some mocks. Oh, there you go. Test. Oh, it's the test folder. Anyway, yeah. So test folder, and then by the way, I don't enjoy reading C++, but this could be helpful to someone. Go and figure out how they. I think that there is a way. Yeah, like. This would show you at least the indentation, if nothing else, to see if you have it correctly set, right? But yeah, unit tests are another place that you could go. The other one is check if the filter, again, talking from the Istio side, right? Check if the filter is even included in the build, right? There's a, let me try to find it. Istio proxy. There you go. Let me just open it here. So there's the Istio proxy repo, and this is the proxy that gets that Istio uses, right? So Istio, they do use upstream Envoy, but they do build it with a couple of their own filters, right? So there's the peer metadata filter, the Istio stats filter, right? If you want to click through these to see how these are even implemented, right? Stats filter, there you go. You can see all the stats that are being collected from this filter. But there's also, and again, I apologize for not being C++ master or Bazel master, but there's a list somewhere that lists all the different filters that are built together. And if someone knows, let me know. But trying to find it. I know there was a list somewhere. Platform mappings, no, definitely not this. It's not repositories, right? Maybe it is. I don't know if this is including it in the builds or not. Let's see. Bazel extension config. There you go. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. So it's Bazel extension config and then the Bazel file build config. So this one is saying which extensions to include in the build. So if you're trying to, and I'm going to pick one that I know it's not in there because it was an interesting one and I wanted to try it out, but then it didn't work. So IP geolocation filter. So there is a filter in Envoy, right, that you can use that's going to add stuff to your HTTP request, add the geolocation data, right, to like headers, right, if you want to do that. So you could say when the request comes in, right, you could add specific headers based on the discovered IP. You have to like point to a database. So this filter knows how to do the lookup. But anyway, so this is the one that I was like, oh, this sounds like an interesting, might be a good demo to show, but then it's not actually included in Istio's build, right? So that's how I know that one is definitely not here. Yeah, it's not here, but it does show like WASM, right? HTTP filters, right? So this is the actual list, right? These are all the filters that you can use in from Istio, right? And then the ones that, because these are disabled by default, not sure what that means, but yeah, but you have Lua, local rate limit filter, is there, RBAC, set metadata, tap, WASM, stateful session, right? And listener filters as well, right? So there's just saying, this is how you build it, and this is what I want you to include in there. Yeah, so check this. But then also the other thing that you should check is make sure that if you're just doing it pure Envoy, where was that one that said only included in specific images and not in everything, not in all builds? I don't know if it was this one. Anyway, yeah, check if it's included. Oh, this one is very useful as well, especially if you're trying to learn about the configuration. So I'll make the fonts bigger here. I don't think I have a cluster, but no, I don't. So I'll just create one and I'll show you this one. What? I don't have Docker running? There we go. I guess I don't. We'll have it soon. So yeah, so I'll come back to this one and I'll show that one. And then the other one, this is done by one of my coworkers here at Solo. It's called Envoy UI.solo.io. If you go there, you can basically, there's nothing magical happening here, right? You can upload Envoy configuration that you have, and then it's going to show, and I'll show this as soon as my Docker comes up and I can create a cluster. So let's do that. What? Let's clean everything. Create cluster. There you go. So you can upload the configuration, load it here, and this gives you a nice way to visualize, I guess, in a way, how the configuration looks like, but also to read oh, there's HTTP filters here. Oh, and these are all the filters, and this is the order of the filters, and you can collapse different sections. It's just much easier to read it here than to read it in an editor, or maybe I'm not using the right editor. I don't know. XCTL install. Do metal LB in case we're going to need that. And then we'll do STOCTL. There are a couple of people watching and listening. Welcome. Say hi so I know you're there and who you are. I'm a curious person. All right, so we have metal LB. By the way, if you're not using kind and metal LB, it's like magic. It allows you to get external IP addresses on your local cluster. And I do have a video that I guess I just have to publish on kind, like the tool. And basically it's a video that shows you 4 different things, interesting things that you can do with kind. So zip profile, just default, and install Istio. Okay, and then we'll just deploy something. By the way, this is already it's going to be part of my demo. I'm not going to install Istio. I'll have Istio installed, everything prepared, but I guess this is, I'll refer back to this video to create a demo script. Actually, I do have the, right? Yeah, let's do demo MD. I just find everything. Let's make it bigger. There you go. First, create a kind cluster. Deploy metal LB. These are notes for me. And then install Istio. There you go. Doesn't matter how we're gonna install it, but okay. So I have this, and then label the namespace. Label namespace default Istio injection enabled. Label default namespace. This is prerequisites, right? Requisites. So I typically write these things down whenever I'm doing any demo, even though I know what I have to do, but there's a lot of times where I forget some things. It just makes it much easier to look at that. Copilot is so smart. Deploy the demo application. And demo application is going to be HTTP bin. So let's do HTTP bin. Okay. Yeah, it's initializing. So let me copy this one. There we go. So I know. So these are the prerequisites. And then demo. Okay, so this is up and running. Okay, let's go back to, this is what I was showing, the UI. Actually, I can now show the proxy config, and this should be courier new. There you go. So I don't have anything deployed. Well, none of the STO resources, but so let me show you the STO-CTL proxy config PC. Let me just make this a little bit bigger like this. And then you have to provide the either the pod name or just the deployment name. And then you have all these available commands or subcommands, I guess. And what this will do is it will show you the configuration for the specific pod, for the Envoy and that specific pod that you provided or deployment. And you can get the full document, full configuration, just the bootstrap portion, cluster, endpoint listener, route, secrets. You can set the logging levels if you want. Basically, it allows. Well, let me show you how it looks like. So if I do all, right, what am I missing? Proxy config. Oh, it's all, right? Like this. There you go, right? It has this nice, nicer looking view, I guess. I don't know, table formatted view, whatever you want to call it. So it shows you all those different things that we saw in the, I know I'm scrolling too fast, but you have the clusters, right? Here, these are the, I think, listeners, routes, right? All the configuration, but in a, I guess, in a semi-readable way, especially now when I have I would typically read this like this, right? Like, but yeah, it's hard to read this here now, but basically shows you different, like this shows you all. But then let's say I just want to look at the clusters, right? I can say PC clusters, and this will just give me the clusters information, right? In a more readable way, right? So there's the black hole cluster pass through, HTTP bin, right? The port and the direction, right? And the type is the endpoint discovery service, right? And then all the other services and what the configuration on this specific pod is, or in the Envoy in this pod is, right? Also, you could do, and typically that's what you'll do, -o YAML, and then you actually get the YAML, or if you do JSON, right, you get the JSON configuration of the clusters. And you can see this is just one pod, and these are just the clusters, right? There's a lot of configuration here. So let me show you what I do. How does that tool look like? So if I do all JSON, and let's spit this out into envoy.json configuration. Yep. Now, if I would open it here, you'll see that there's, let's see how many lines. Anyone cares to guess how many lines there are? Anyone? It's definitely more than 5,000, that's for sure. Let's scroll a little bit more. Oh man, let me just scroll all the way to the bottom. Yeah, almost 10,000. There you go. And this, we haven't configured anything, right? This is just standard default configuration. So as you can imagine, it's very hard to read here. I mean, you can do like things like you can collapse it here and maybe makes it easier to read a little bit. But if we go to this tool, and I'll just, I don't want to flash you my files, so I'll just load a file here if I can find my folder. There we go. Envoy JSON. There you go. Right. Oh, why isn't this? Okay, I'll make it really big. There you go. Yeah, so I've loaded the configuration, and notice it gives you this nice oh, there's something configs, and there's 7 7 items here, and you can see, oh, there's the bootstrap. Okay, so bootstrap is one section. Cluster is another section. Endpoints, listeners, scope routes, I guess, routes config dump, and secrets, right? So you get this nicer view, maybe makes it a little bit easier to traverse and go and read, right? But anyway, it is one of the things that's, especially when I what was I doing, the workshop on ambient mesh and how the traffic flows through how it is configured from the waypoint proxy, right? This was extremely useful to have there, especially because there's in Envoy in the configure in the ambient waypoint Envoy configuration. There's like a lot of cross-reference, like, oh, now you're here, and then we're setting something here, and then we're redirecting to this internal listener, and then you have to go back somewhere again and find that internal listener, figure out what that one does. So this was extremely helpful. I don't know if I could do this in the editor. It would be just painful to do it, but yeah, this is a nice, right, way to. It's a lot of clicking here as well, but at least it seems more organized, right? Anyway, let me close this one. Yes, the demo. So let's see. We have this. So the idea would be to show how to configure. What are we going to configure? Let's do the IP tagging one, right? Okay, so let's do the IP tagging one. So we have the name. Right, so the name of the filter is this. And then we have the type URL. Figure that one out. I move it here. There we go. So type URL. Yep, there it is. And then the actual configuration. So the actual configuration, let's see how it would look like. So request type, let me open it again. I think I don't have to set anything because we're saying both external and internal requests will be tagged. Okay, this is the default value, so we don't have to set anything. But then the IP tags, so this is how the configuration would look like. So I'll have IP tags, I'll do JSON underscore tags. And this will be an array. And let's see, what do we have to do there? So we have to set an IP tag name. I'll say my tag 123. Very inventive with names. Oh, it actually has to be this, right? Curly braces. There you go. IP tag name, and then the IP list. Oh, wow. Look at that. IP list. And let's look at what IP list is. It's a CIDR range, which is saying address prefix. So this or this, and then prefix, length of prefix, we don't have to set it, but we have to set this. All right, so, okay, so let's say if we want to capture everything, I think that's this, right? Oh, no, that's this. The prefix would be, yeah, the prefix would be prefix len, and this is an actual number. Oh, let's see, this just takes you to different websites, but there you go. So this would be like this, I think, if I read it correctly, right? So what this would do, it's just going to add this tag to, oh, I'm missing another one here. It's going to add this header. Let me go back. I'll see now real time how quickly one can get lost in the documentation here. Let's go IP tagging. There you go. IP tagging. Configuration overview. That's what I wanted. Yes. So it's going to set the X Envoy IP tags with the string tags for the trusted addresses, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to expect this header to be set with this value, if I'm reading that correctly. Okay, so I think that's the whole thing. I have everything. What I need is also the actual Envoy, like Envoy Istio Envoy filter resource. So let's do let's go to istio.io and Envoy filter. And let's see what's there. Envoy filter. And we can borrow one from here. What do we want to borrow? Let's say I want to borrow this one. So insert before. Don't need this whole thing. Just need it up to here. All right. So let me do this. There you go. This is YAML. Let's close it here. I'll be deleting a lot of stuff from here. Okay, so let's call it IP tagging, and I'm gonna remove the namespace because I'll deploy to default. I don't need this one either. So the first patch, okay, that's the comment from before, right? So HTTP filter, that's correct. Sidecar inbound, that's correct. And the port number, so the port number will tell us the calls. So what is HTTP bin? Is it, so it's 8,000. Is the container also 8,000? No, it's 80, right? So this would be 80 because it's the pod, not the service, right? This is correct, right? And this is correct as well because we're going to insert it before this guy. And now this is where we do our configuration, right? And our configuration will be, we have the name up here, is this guy. Here. That's the name of the filter. And the type URL is this. So replace it here. And then from here, oh wow, look at this. It's smart. So from there, we'll take this, but I'm lazy and I'll just do convert JSON to YAML. What? Unexpected? What is it missing? Oh, there I go. Okay. Go. So I just converted it to YAML and we'll be pasting it here. And then we'll just try to align it correctly. So for this, this is the array of tags, and then IP list and prefix. Even though prefix we don't have to set, I can delete this because it's from the previous one. And I think if I didn't mess up any of the indentations, it should work fine. But let's see. So let's take this. And let's apply it. Moment of truth. Of course, I messed up something. There I go. This is the problem, right? Denied or configuration is invalid. Envoy can't unmarshal any nested prototype, blah, 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 IP tagging, cannot unmarshal object into the go value. What am I missing here? So let's, and I've done this before multiple times, and I still mess up. Value name, type config. Well, let's go to GitHub and see. Just GitHub. There I go. There's some stuff here. Let's do code. IP tagging. It's some stupid indentation for sure. It's always something like that. Oh, but I could try. Oh, let's try JSON, right? This should work. Doesn't matter, right? Oh, wait. Why is, oh no, it's fine. Oh, wait, maybe it's, do I have to do it like this? Maybe. Let's try. Anyone else hates YAML? Error. Oh, IP list has to be under this. Did not find line 22. Where's line 22? Oops. Let's see, line 20. Oh, it's typed config? What? Oh, wait. No, it's fine. Should be fine. What did I miss here? I'm missing something very obvious. Let's look at that's why you do your demos before. There's nothing useful here. Cannot unmarshal any. Let's see. We'll figure this out. No. Oh, what was the one? Let's go back. Oh, this guy, right? So name, typed config, it's the same. Oh. Oh, man. I think it might have been this one. Since everything magically changed colors. No. All right. Invalid array config patch value must be a type of object. No, so no, it's not. It's not the dash there. Let me see. I'll figure it out. Well, figured it out. Type config. Oh, damn it. I know, of course. Is this, like, since I copied it from here, is this, there's a bug here? Wait, typed config, type. Oh, but the type, I think it's like this. It has to be the type URL. Has to be this. At least that's what I'm looking at, another example that I had written down. And then this is just like a typed struct, but I don't know if this is assumed or not. So typed config, type URL, wait, value, name, type config, type URL, value, and then over here is this, right? Just see the type config. Yep. Okay, let's try this one. I have another example with the rate limiter that I know it works, but there you go. I mean, that just proves my point. Yeah, so it's value, and then you specify the typed config. The type is the type struct, and the type URL is the actual type URL. And then there's another value down here where you actually specify your configuration. All right, well, let's see if this works. So how do we verify this? So we can do proxy config, listeners, right? I'll deploy HTTP bin. And I think if you just do YAML, let me grep for IP tags. There you go, right? So it is set somewhere. Let's do like this, right? IP tagging. Yeah, so it applied it. There was another one somewhere. Yeah. So it is before the filter, right? And let's see if this actually works. I think it should work. I don't know. We'll see. And then we'll do curl HTTP bin 8000, right? Headers. Let's see. There you go. Boom, it worked. Okay. So yeah, X Envoy IP tags, my tag 123, right? But now if I wanted to do, if I wanted to tag it with a different value or different value for different IPs, you could go and set that as well. Yeah, perfect. I think this will be my demo then, right? Because it actually works. And and I got it to work. Okay. So demo, let me just copy the links so I have the references. Since it is 25 minutes, 25 minutes goes by really fast. And typically there's always some delay and you never start on time. So your IP tagging filter. All right, so this is where it is. Well, I'll do show where to find the name and type URL. And then come up with the configuration for the filter. So these are just notes for me. I'll probably have, I don't know if I'll print this out, but if it's like typically when you do like demos, there are two screens. There's your screen and the screen that's being presented, I guess, the big screen. But typically what you do is you duplicate, you mirror your monitor, right? So if you don't want to show your, I guess, notes, you'll have to either print it out or bring an iPad or something with your notes there. What you don't want to do is you don't necessarily want to extend the screens so you can look at your stuff, your notes, but then the actual demo is behind you somewhere on a big screen. So you'll be doing a lot of like this. And I've made that mistake before. So yeah, don't be like me. Don't do it. I'll copy this because this is the actual configuration section and this is YAML, right? So I'll just show how to come up with this and then come up with the YAML, filter YAML. This is an easy one. It's like our inbound port. And just a note here, this has to be the pod port, not the service port, right? That's another mistake I've made a couple of times. But yeah, I think that's a demo that I could go through 5 minutes, right? This is prerequisites. Yeah, I guess I can click here and say, hey, we're going to I'll show you how to configure the IP tagging filter. What do we need is the type URL, and then the API reference. We can also get the qualified name for the filter. And then I'll talk about this and show we have to set the IP tags, clicking here on the IP tags. Okay, so we have to provide an IP tag name and then an IP list, which is a CIDR range. And the only thing that we have to provide here is the address prefix. I don't need notes for that, I guess. I can come up with this one, write it down, and then I'll have this. Let me actually copy it. No, I'll have it like this, and then I'll just say, oh, I came up with this before, and then we'll show the port number here, HTTP filter, it's inbound. We're inserting it before. Here's the name. What did I miss again? Wait. All right, something is. Didn't I have like the? Oh my! Wait. Okay, something's not right here. This didn't look like this because I had the. I had the type, and then the actual type URL was separate. So is this telling me that? Oh, and the value is missing. Wait. Oh, let's try this one. Is this editor doing like some magic here? Of course. My editor is. What? Did anyone else notice this? Or maybe no. Ugh. Okay, never mind. It's me being stupid. I actually copied it here. All right, that would have been an odd issue, I guess. Anyway, this was the old config that I had here. This is the actual new one, right? So yeah, so actual filter configuration name, type struct for the type URL, and then another value field, and then the actual value for the filter. And I'll just double check that this works, and we'll be good to go. It's unchanged, yeah, because it was already there. Oh, actually, we can change it and say, oh, yeah, of course, you have to do this, right? Hello, Chicago, right? Something topical to remind people that they're in Chicago for KubeCon, right? Yeah, it takes a couple of seconds. There you go. Hello, Chicago. Yay, perfect. Yep. I think I have my demo. That was easy. Not too bad. 1 hour on the dot, almost. Perfect. Yeah, well, thanks everyone for keeping me company here. Let me know if this was fun. Maybe I'll do it for the next conference as well. Yeah, if anyone watching, listening is in Chicago at KubeCon next week, let me know. I'll be there as well. You can grab some coffee or something, or just chat. All right. Have a good day.